James and John getting gained. Wait a second, that's John's part.
John and James getting gains. Take no names. Make them gains.
What's up, guys? I'm James.
And I'm John.
Welcome to the Ergogenic Podcast. We are your host, as you know by now. In this episode, John interviews competitive bodybuilder Ronnie Walker. He's entered 6 amateur competitions, won a handful. And in this episode, John talks to him about his training, nutrition, supplementation, and how he gets prepared for his shows. And as always, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Athletic Edge Nutrition. You can visit them at aenutrition.com.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Ergogenic Podcast. This week we have on Ronnie Walker. Ronnie has competed in 6 amateur bodybuilding contests, and we figured we'd bring him on so we can get an aspect of what it's like to train for those shows from a more experienced competitor. So Ronnie, thank you for coming on the show.
Having me.
Yep. All right, so I guess we'll just start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself, like how you got into weightlifting, how many contests you've done. I said 6, but how long ago were they? When was your first one? All that stuff.
Pretty much just started. I got into played sports my whole life. Obviously, when I got into junior high, we had a weight room when I was wrestling. So it just kind of started there. I'd say around 13, 14, just dabbling in weights. Doing push-ups in my bedroom, got the little miniature weight set from Kmart, that whole deal. I got out of high school. It was just one of those things. I stuck with a gym membership. I found one of those gyms, little $20 a month deal, and I just stayed at it. Nothing too serious, just, a few days a week, typical guy, skip leg day. And then just, as I started getting older, I stayed with it, but then I started realizing, okay, I better switch up my diet because the older I got, just working out wasn't enough. So then it's like the more I started playing with diet, the more in shape I was getting, the more I started getting into it. The whole internet craze, next thing you know, you're keeping up with all these bodybuilders, learning how they eat, wanting to try new things. And, I started competing in 2010. I had several friends that were competing. So I was like, well, I'm already eating clean. I work out the same way you do. I just never thought about competing because you see the guys in the magazines, you see the guys on stage, and you forget they don't look like that every day. They actually dieted a long time to look like that, and that's why they call it a contest diet. To me, diet means temporary. So you're going to gain that weight back. So once I got it into my head, wait a minute, those guys don't look like that every day. I wonder what I would look like if I did a diet. So it was cookie cutter, I had a couple people help me, but it was just a typical chicken and brown rice. I didn't know how much I should be eating. I just cleaned up my diet. And next thing you know, you're losing weight, you're looking better, so you assume what you're doing is working. I stepped on stage, did a natural show, did a novice class, and so it was my first show. I actually won my class and the overall. So my first show, awesome. I was hooked at that point.
Yeah, that's great.
But so the next year it was like, okay, I got to get bigger. And I used to hear this, people say, get as big as you can until you can't see your abs anymore. Well, for me, I've always had great abs. So I was able to get up to like 245 and still have abs, but I was too far gone. So the next year I did the same natural show, but I competed in the open class and I took third. And only out of 4 people, so it was kind of disastrous to me. And then the following week did an NPC show just because I was in shape, and I actually took 4th, which I was happier with. Each year has been a progression. I could go on and on if you want to cut me off and, add something.
No, that's fine. That's great.
The next year, last year, 2012, I started getting more serious. I started learning more about the whole macros thing. Not necessarily the IIFYM if it fits your macros yet, but I just started hearing more about, okay, you're eating the right foods. You just need to start figuring out, when to cut carbs, how much your baseline, keeping a clean diet year round and not just eating whatever and then going on a diet. So last year I trained myself. I always train myself with weights. It's hard for me to have a workout partner with my job because I don't know what time I'm going to be at the gym every day. So I just tried to establish a baseline macros. And, let me rewind a little bit. A guy that wasn't my coach gave me a pointer. His IFBB pro, Patrick Richardson. He told me something that just stuck with me. He said, when he's training people, he tells them, find someone that can check your body fat. That's good. Not one of those little handheld gym deals. Find somebody that can accurately check your body fat. If you can stay, as a male, if you can stay 12% or lower, and this was his opinion, but, it's worked for me since. If you can stay 12% and no higher in the off season, if you diet properly, you should have no problem getting 5% or lower. Mm-hmm. So I did that last year. And I had a couple little hiccups in my diet towards the end. There were times where, I was eating too much salmon, or there were just times like I would literally do stupid things like forget that there's protein in oatmeal. So my macros would be completely off because I was only counting the protein from my meat sources and just little things like that. I won my show. I didn't win the overall, but I won the open. Looked the best I'd ever looked. Thought, okay, this is the best I can look as a natural. Doing contest diets really take a toll on a relationship. I mean, if you're married or have a girlfriend, it's going to take a special kind of girl to be able to put up with that. So last year was actually it for me. I was going to be completely done. For the last 16 weeks leading into a show, there is no going out to restaurants. You're not going out of town. It can be pretty miserable. So I was going to be done. And my girlfriend was like, how about this? How about we make a deal? We do one more show. You pick any coach you possibly want. I don't care if it's Hani Rambod, Chris Aceto, Lane Norton. You pick him. That's your Christmas present. And
oh, wow.
I actually got all over the internet. But see, I do natural shows. So nothing against those other trainers. They might be amazing at training natural athletes, but I only hear about them, well, besides Lane Norton, I only hear about them training guys for IFBB and NPC. So I'm like, so much of that could be the stuff they're on,
Yeah, it could be skewed and not essentially transition over to the naturals.
Yeah, so I started reading a lot in the forums, and several names. I mean, you hear 100 names, but I just started really writing down the ones that kept repeating. And Lane Norton was one. The 3D MJ, the 3D Muscle Journey guys kept getting mentioned. And this one guy, Jason Theobald, who owns Natty Nutrition, cheap plug, he kept getting brought up. So I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to these people. And, I mean, Lane Norton brings everybody in amazing. But I'm thinking, okay, I'm pretty, OCD. And when I want to talk to my coach, I want to talk to my coach. I don't want to send him an email and have to wait a couple of days to hear from him. And one thing I kept hearing about Jason Theobald was he contacts you right back. I mean, you hear back from this dude fast. And, to the point that you sometimes forget that you'll think you're his only client. I mean, he's so, good about that. So I was like, I started reading about him and was like, man, this guy really brings people in tight. And for natural, you don't play that size game the way you do in NPC. You got to get shredded. At the bigger natural shows, guys tend to be tighter than they are in IFBB because it's not the muscle game. So I hired him. He was actually very inexpensive because he's an attorney, so he's not really doing it for the money. He does it for the love of training. And we started, and one interesting thing we did this year that I think really made all the difference is, I'd already been doing the macro stuff, and he asked me, what's your body fat? I went and had it checked. I was 11.4, which is the most I'd gotten in off season. And he asked me what my macros were, and at the time, I was eating 275 carbs a day, like 325, 350 protein, somewhere in there. But mainly, he wanted to know those carbs. And he was like, okay, we started 26 weeks from the show. He goes, actually, your diet starts today. He said, but we're going to, and this was the key. I'd never heard of reverse dieting. So we start 10 weeks out, 10 weeks of reverse dieting, starting 26 weeks out. He goes, every week that you don't gain weight, we're going to raise your carbs 30 to 50 grams. We don't want you to gain any weight. He goes, we want to keep your body fat where it's at or have it drop, but we want you eating more food. He said, that way, when we get 16 weeks out, you're still going to be the same weight. Your body fat's going to be the same or less, and you're going to have so much more gas in the tank. Your carbs are going to be so high that your metabolism is going to be going crazy once you start cutting carbs, and you're going to be so high up that you'll have a long way to cut from. So I was like, oh, he was like, it's just going to be a pain because you're going to have to eat clean for 10 weeks extra. But he gave me one cheat meal a week. Every Saturday night I would go out and have a cheat meal. But I had to track my weight every morning, so I had to, I was accountable for it. So every week we were able to raise my carbs, and I went from 275 carbs, maintaining my weight, up to 455 carbs. So when I started my diet at 455 carbs at 16 weeks out, I never dipped below that 275 baseline that I started at until I was about 7 weeks out. So like the first, 9 weeks of my diet, I was getting to eat more than I originally was to begin with. So my whole diet, even at a natural show, my carbs never dipped below 200. I stayed at up 200 or above the whole diet until carb up day, and I got to eat 600 grams of carbs a day before my show.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually a lot different from, the standard, like, ketogenic diet, low carbs, less than 50 grams carbs a day, like things we've all read about.
Oh, yeah.
So it's interesting that you did that. And did you end up winning that contest?
Yeah. That show was 4 weeks ago, and I won my class. I lost the overall. It was the toughest overall, one of the toughest overalls I've ever seen. All four of us in the overall all had striated glutes. Every one of us. Matter of fact, there was the winner who won his pro card. The other two guys have won their pro cards since. So, all four.
So you had a tough contest.
Yeah, it was like a ridiculous show.
Yeah.
And the thing with natural shows that a lot of people don't realize is there's different natural organizations. So if you're a pro in one organization, you can still compete as an amateur in another. So there were about 3 or 4 pros in this show that I beat, or that were beaten, by us, because no pro made it to the final. So yeah, it was a it was the toughest show I've ever done, including the 2 NPC shows that I did. So yeah, it was a cool experience. And again, for now, because I went into this show thinking it was going to be my last show ever, I would like, every year it's just like, if you look at the progress pictures, it's crazy how much you improve each year. But now it's like, I know what's working for my body. I realize, pretty much realistically what I'm looking at improving each year. Surprisingly, this year I stayed about 12 to 13 pounds lighter than last year, but was able to put on more size, which kind of put an end to the whole you can't get bigger, staying leaner, thing. Mm-hmm. So, but that, I think a lot of that came from, this was the first year when I hired Jason. He didn't change the exercises I was doing, but he changed the way I was doing them. Which granted, this, but everybody has an ego in the gym, and you don't go in there curling 20s. But if you get more muscle curling 20s, put down the 40s. So it's just this year everything was so switched up with explode up, 3-second negatives, a lot of squeezing, a lot of stretching. He just kept mixing it up. So
yeah, and actually that's a lot of what Ben Pakulski and Vince Del Monte do on Hypertrophy Max. They essentially teach you, to make a 20-pound dumbbell feel heavier when you're curling it than a 50-pound dumbbell.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Ben is the man. Like that guy, I keep up with that guy. I've watched his All About the Benjamins DVD 100 times. So actually, it's funny you mentioned Ben. Something from that DVD saved me during this diet. I don't know if it was low body fat, what it was, but normally during a contest diet, I have no problem. I coast in, I don't get sick, everything's good. This year, I'd say starting at about 6 weeks out, 7 weeks out, I just started feeling miserable, like weak. Just feeling horrible. I had no idea why. I'd never felt this way before. And there's a part on the Ben Pakulski video where he's, going grocery shopping and he's showing supplements he takes and whatnot. And he's talking about when people take fat burners, it causes you to burn more fat, but it slows down your adrenal gland. So he was talking about the importance of taking an adrenal support. Well, I wasn't on a thermogenic at all for this show. There's so much you cannot take when you're doing natural shows. But still, something about that whole adrenal thing popped in my head. And I'm like, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. But I felt so miserable, I was willing to try anything. So I've been feeling pretty bad for 2 or 3 weeks at this point. And I drove over to one of the little local chains. I won't mention. I don't know how that works on here. But and I just bought a $20 bottle of adrenal support. Within 2 hours, I was completely back to normal. I mean, I had been feeling miserable for like 2 to 3 weeks, and that one little simple thing. So I emailed Ben and was like, I don't think it's ironic. And he was like, no, it was like, it's the smallest little things, that make the biggest difference,
Yeah, well, and what he says all the time is 1% better every day.
Yeah.
If you can get 1% better every single day, then, you'll be at your goals in no time.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that kind of is what stuck with me.
Yeah.
And that's everything from business to exercise to, relationships to whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So.
But like I said, I was probably rambling, so if there's anything that I missed or, anything else.
Well, and actually, too, I know in the past you've told me that as soon as you started covering up your tattoos, you started doing better in your shows.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, for all the people that aren't watching the video right now, Ronnie, you have some tattoos all down your arms and everything, and you said that you'd cover them up with makeup.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
They're one of the major tanning companies. They have a tattoo makeup cover. And I started using it, and it's kind of funny, actually, because the first couple years I was told to cover my tattoos. They're hurting me, if I could find a way to cover them. So last year I cover them, and again, I win my show. I don't win the overall. This year I do the makeup again. It works even better this year than it did last year. I mean, you really could not see my tattoos at all. And when I lost, there's actually a YouTube video. I can show it to you if you want to link it to the podcast or how it.
Yeah, sure.
It's pretty funny because in the show that I did, the show was so large for a natural show that the top 2 in the overall won their pro card. So, I mean, not to sound overconfident, but the guy that won the overall, he and we knew we were first and second. So we knew we were both getting a pro card. I mean, no disrespect to the other 2 guys, but it's just everybody backstage was congratulating us before the awards were given. We didn't know who was going to be first and second. So one of the guys that got he ended up winning. The guy that got second, nobody saw it coming. I mean, actually on the video, you even hear the guy that's recording it go, didn't see that coming. So, but on the video, after we posed down, and this is what's so crazy about the video, it's a 24-minute overall. It's not the typical 5-minute, you go out there, hit your mandatory. They made us pose forever. So we posed forever. We're sweating, tans running all off people. We do the pose down music, and which is just for entertainment, because at that point judges are just tallying scores. So after, so I'm like, oh God, thank God we're done posing. You're just coasting through the pose down, having fun. Well, after the music goes off, they go, we have one judge that can't make up, their mind, and we're going to have to pose again. So come to find out after the show, the decision, one judge couldn't make up their mind for second place. The first place guy, he'd already won. And again, I thought he should have won. He told me I should have won. So I didn't feel bad that he was the winner. They were trying to decide between second place. When it come down to the judge having to decide between second place, the judge went with the other guy because my tan wasn't dark enough. So the 6 months of Stairmaster and killing myself and all that was due to tan, which I can't help because I'm at the mercy of how dark, I have to match the color of the makeup. So the judge said you'd be better off using a much darker tanner and not covering your tattoos. So it's like 1 year I'm getting told to cover them. The next year I'm told I'm not dark enough, so you shouldn't cover them. The one downside to not covering them, though, is you can't oil up. If oil touches that makeup, it messes it up.
It smears.
So it kind of makes you look a little dry on stage. But at the same time, if I showed you pictures of me standing next to the other guys on stage, or you watch the video, I look no different. So, it's just one of those, okay, well, what do I do now? Next year, if I compete, do I just go darker and try to leave the tattoos? So I guess it has its upsides and whatnot.
And what did you use for tanning?
I used Jantana. The guy that won, if you saw him backstage, he was a white guy. You would have thought he was a black guy. I mean, this guy was so dark. He used Dream Tan, the red bronze. It ends up looking gold. It's weird that it's called red bronze. It's what Lane Norton uses. You get so dark from that stuff. Some shows won't even let you use it because it's real pasty. It's kind of a weird, messy kind of a tan. But so backstage, you look so dark, but when you get out in those stage lights and they hit you, it looks amazing. So the judge told me, try something like that next time, or just do several coats of what you did do. Because I was just doing one coat. I mean, I did a good base tan in bed for a couple months, but still, like, you could get the darkest tan in bed tan in the world. You get on stage, you're going to look pasty white. So you have to use those dark tanning products. But again, like, I can't get too dark with that tan, because when you put that makeup on, that makeup is going to be the color that it is. So then you're going to look two-tone. So, again, I was dark. It's just when you're comparing me to, you know, the guy beside me was a black guy. The guy beside me was a white guy who was as dark as a black guy. You know, you need to get pretty dark.
Yeah. And do you just put that tanning lotion on right before you step out, like an hour or two beforehand, and then does it wash off in the shower?
The Dream Tan, you do put it on right before. The kind I use, some people start doing it. If the show's Saturday, some people might do a coat Thursday, a coat Friday, a coat, you know. You could do several coats the same day. I just do it the morning of the show. I wake up early. You put the tan all over. Then once it dries, you put the makeup on, and then I put my clothes on. And then when I get backstage, once you take your clothes off, the makeup is kind of smeared a little bit. Right before pump up, I just have my girlfriend's backstage with me. She touches up my makeup. I pump up, walk on stage. So.
Yeah, and that's also a good transition into the pump up. Like, what do you do for pump up? Do you just bring up the weak body parts that you know that, you know, you want to bring up a little bit, or?
The water actually kind of go hand in hand. So I can kind of mention both of those all in one. Again, I'll probably leave out some stuff, but like when Lane Norton was talking about the water cut, he was talking about, you know, all year, like all diet, like I was drinking probably 2 gallons of water a day. And towards the end, no matter what point of the day, I lift my shirt up, I look dry, veiny, you know, and I'm full of water. So if you look good and you wake up dry and you look amazing every day, why at the very end do you pull some crazy magic trick? Oh, let me do something totally different. I looked wonderful yesterday when I drank 2 gallons of water, but today I'm going to do something totally different. And the example he gave, and I don't know this percentage, so I'll make up a percentage for the sake of the story. But let's just say, for example, you know, he says something like you have a certain ratio of water under the skin and in the muscle. Let's say it's like 30-70. It was like, as you shed water, when people are always talking about, oh, we're going to get the water out from the subcutaneous layer, it's impossible. He says your body completely adjusts right back to that percentage. So you always keep a certain percentage of water under your skin. It's like, so when you dehydrate, you flatten out. You look stringy. It's like the difference between the way you look when you walk in the gym to the way you look when you walk out, when your muscles are full of blood and everything. He was like, so, you know, don't necessarily guzzle water backstage. But, you know, when you eat your meals Saturday morning, I mean, a lot of his clients will go on stage with a gallon of water in their system. Because what happens is, as long as, like, you're not guzzling water, you need that water in your skin. Because when you pump up, it's the same thing at the gym. You're temporarily pushing that water and filling the muscles up. So you're temporarily getting that water, you're drying out, and then when you walk on stage, you pose, you're getting harder as you pose because you're squeezing, and then when you go backstage, everything settles, you know, you're not dehydrated, you look fuller on stage, and that's why I said, you know, I tried that last year, and I did that this year, and it works amazing. And an example he gives, and you know, more backing for this is, if you ask anyone that's ever competed, did you look better on stage, or did you look better the next morning after you went out, rehydrated, ate a bunch of cheap food, dessert, you know, because everybody pigs out after a show. You know, you go out, you drink a ton of water, or, you know, in my case, I drank tons of sweet tea, and I ate cheesecake and carrot cake and Pop-Tarts and bacon burger. I mean, I pigged out. I mean, I gorged myself. And I woke up, and I looked better than I did the day of the show.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't know if it's Lane that said this or someone else, but I think he quoted it at one point, that you can't really do much the week before a show to get better, to improve, but there's a lot that you can do to mess yourself up.
Yeah, and most people do. So. Most people, including so many IFBB pros, you'll constantly read, yeah, I look better 2 weeks out than I did at the show.
Yeah, because they started trying all that weird, you know, myths and rumors that they hear about, and then there goes essentially half a year of training.
Now, granted, when you're on the level, though, of, say, like Jay Cutler, it is trickier for those guys because guys like Jay, he's backstage eating so many carbs, and his body literally, like, you can see, like, used to I couldn't, but now that I've kept up with bodybuilding so long, when I'm watching, like, Mr. Olympia and I'm watching the pose downs, you literally see some guys getting harder on stage as they pose, and some guys looking worse as it goes on. And, like, guys like Jay, his body starts flattening out so fast because he has to constantly fuel his body with carbs. So when you're on that level, things can change. And, you see so many guys like, like 2011, I actually got to go to the Olympia. And I got to go to the Saturday night show. And I had to basically wake up Saturday morning just to see what the pictures looked like from the pre-show, from pre-judge. And Jay Cutler looked miserable. Everybody was like, man, Jay's definitely lost it. Phil Heath is going to kill him. Well, whatever adjustment Jay made from Friday night to Saturday night, like a different person. And but they can do that. Somebody like me or, when you're on the smaller scale, our bodies don't change that much. Like I said, the day after the show, I look as good or better than I did the day of the show. So I guess it just, depends on, what scale of bodybuilder you are. But yeah, Lane seems to be pretty dead on. Like I said, I've never worked with Lane, but I respect that guy so much. Matter of fact, one of my friends who let's just say he's not natural, he follows Lane like crazy because even a guy like Lane, he respects so much because it doesn't matter if you're using drugs, not using drugs, whatever, that guy, he's just a wealth of knowledge, so.
Well, and that's also like Ben Pakulski too. He's probably one of the smartest guys I know as far as training and everything that I've seen. Just the science behind it. So
yeah,
Ben
and Lane are actually good friends. They work out together. You can see them together on some of their YouTube videos. Training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also back to what you were saying about what works for Lane. It kind of goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, to where what works for Lane Norton, or not Lane Norton, Jay Cutler.
Oh yeah.
What works for him, he's among the top 0.0001% of the population.
Oh yeah.
So just because he does that doesn't mean it'll work for you and me.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and again with Lane's workout split. I grew up probably same with you. The traditional International Chest Day is Monday, and then
legs are Tuesday.
You're supposed to do legs on Wednesday, but you skip it. Everybody just has that split. And then Lane was like the first guy that his split was like totally threw me off with like the power hypertrophy split. And even though I've never done that split, it just never seemed to appeal to me. It made me want to start looking at other splits. Like I tried DC training for a little while, and I actually liked it. It was nothing that I wanted to do long term, but I enjoyed it for like the few months that I tried it. Since my show, I just started a new split. A lot of the 3DMJ guys do. Like I really look up to Alberto Nunez, who's one of the trainers with 3DMJ. But matter of fact, Alberto trained the guy that won the overall. And I was talking to him about his split, and since then I've been researching this split. One of the more popular YouTube guys, Matt Ogus, he's with 3DMJ, and it's the split that he does. But I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's the legs push, pull, off, repeat split. So basically, like, for example, if you started on Monday, you're doing legs Monday, you're doing push Tuesday, which is shoulder, tri, and chest. Wednesday would be pull, so back and by. Thursday, you're off. Friday starts the cycle again. So, but the thing with it is, like, basically every 8 days you've hit everything twice. But because you hit everything more frequent, each workout has an A, like I do an A and a B workout. So, like, say Monday is legs A workout. Because I know I'm going to hit them again, 4 or 5 days later, I only do, like, I'll warm up my knees with, like, leg extensions. But I'll do, between my 4 main exercises for quads, let's say, there's squats, lunges, packs, and leg press. I'll pick 2. Like, so I do squats. Like this last leg workout, I did squats and walking lunges, and then I did 2 hamstring exercises, standing leg curls, seated leg curls. and that was it. But I was.
And then you do the other exercises on the second leg day?
Yeah, and I just got to destroy my legs because the volume was lower. But I'm still doing 2 exercises for quads, 2 for, hams. And then, again, like my next workout, I'll do leg press, hacks, stiff leg dead, and a lot of the people have grown a lot from that split. And I talked to my coach about it before I did it. And I was like, it's different from the split you gave me. What do you think about trying this? He was like, I think it's awesome. He was like, because you're so used to that 5-day split. Now, one thing that was a little different, though, is I'm 6'1", so I've played soccer my whole life. I'm never going to have those huge tree trunk legs. But if you look at pictures from me from 2010 to this last show, my legs have grown in an amazing way. Like my back, I didn't have a Christmas tree last year, and just in 1 year with this, the way my workout split was this year, that was everybody's like commented on my back photos more than any other photo. So it's like I brought my weakest point to one of my strongest points. So like this year, even though I did the typical 5-day split, what was interesting about this year is, I split quads and hams, which is no biggie. But on ham day, I did back thickness. On quad day, I did back width. So when I did a leg day, I did a back day. No matter if it was chest day, arm day, no matter what, every time I walked in that gym, I had to start every workout with 50 pull-ups, as many sets as it took to get to 50. So we made a real heavy back and leg emphasis this year. So that worked.
Well, maybe you can send me those pictures too, like the before and after, like your first show and this most recent one, so I can put them on the website.
Oh, yeah.
So people can see the comparison.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was showing someone today my first show where I'm standing backstage with my trophy. I had 0 leg sweep whatsoever, and in the one this year. I mean, it's night and day different. So, and what's funny is I wasn't really much bigger. My weight hasn't really changed much, from show to show. I mean, they have a little bit. Last year I weighed more, but last year my body fat wasn't as low either. So, but yeah, the whole body fat thing, like I had mentioned earlier, that's one thing I would tell everyone to look into. Everyone starts their diet from wherever point they start, and they're going to lose however much weight, and they're going to look 10 times better at the end. But most people, they use the standard of what they're used to seeing at shows. And most guys at shows aren't shredded these days. Again, I see the guys Lane Norton trains and a lot of those guys, and Lane's like, I'm going to get you striated glutes. If you don't get the striated glutes, you cheated or you didn't put in the work, or if you do what you're supposed to do, and it's not everybody says they want it, but I mean, I suffered on that Stairmaster. I didn't take the high road. I didn't take the easy road and walk on a treadmill like so many people do and swear they put in all the work on cardio. No, I lived on that Stairmaster for 6 straight months, and it was brutal.
Yeah, what is your cardio routine? Or did you do like the whole steady state, or did you throw in some HIIT training in there, or what did you do for that aspect?
I'll admit I hated HIIT, but I did some HIIT. I just pretty much did it all on the bike. But every morning, when we started out, so far, so many weeks out, one thing that Jason said that was interesting that worked great, and proof of that actually, he said that starting this far out and at the right body fat, I don't want you to get your heart. He kept my heart rate the whole 6 months between 120 and 130. He never wanted my heart rate to go above 130. So it's like it made cardio a lot easier, but at the same time, I was doing cardio on a Stairmaster, so I was having to squeeze. I just stayed sore all the time because I was constantly squeezing my glutes and whatnot. But yeah, so I did a lot of heart rate monitoring when I was doing my cardio, and but we started out 20 minutes, but we quickly got to 30. So every morning I actually did fasted cardio, and I know there's the debate of fasted or not fasted.
Yeah, I've seen research for both.
It really matters too much. He likes fasted, but the thing with fasted is, okay, let's just say, let's say what people say is real, like that you do burn more fat, but you take some muscle with it. Well, every morning I drink Aminos during every workout, during any cardio session, during any workout. If I'm at the gym, I'm sipping on Aminos. So I personally think that if you are taking some muscle, I think the aminos are preventing that.
Well, and that's actually what I do too for my fasted cardio. I do it 2 or 3 times a week, but I drink aminos during the whole exercise bout. So, essentially, if my body wants amino acids, it's going to take it from that instead of my muscles. And so that's the theory.
Yeah, and it tastes good too. So I mean, it's not like a chore to drink my amino drink, but yeah, I think that worked really good. Plus, I actually, every morning I woke up like I'm one of those few people. I love clean eating. Like my off season, I could take my computer right now and walk it into my kitchen, and my refrigerator is full of Tupperware. Like, I eat the same exact foods. I might have 1 or 2 cheats a week. I just get to eat bigger portions. And but during a contest diet, every morning I wake up, I'm starving. So the whole time I'm doing my cardio, I'm just looking forward to breakfast. So it was actually pretty easy to knock out that morning cardio because I just kept thinking about how good my oatmeal was going to be. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually the same way with like my pantry. Like everything in there is, vegetables, fruits, lean meats. Like, I mean, I eat clean year round, and if I eat something like pizza, I just feel horrible.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know if it's the, psychological aspect or what, but I mean, if my body likes clean food, then, I'm not going to deny it. I'm just going to stick with it.
Oh yeah. Speaking of the vegetables and going back to Ben Pakulski, I picked this up my second year competing, but I've always done this. I found that, like, I drink a lot of Crystal Light. I just can't drink plain water. And, like, so this Crystal Light, high-protein diets, stuff like that. Like, Ben Pakulski's real big on keeping your body alkaline and pH balanced. And so many people don't know anything about that. They've never been told anything about that. I didn't know anything about it until I watched this video. And it started making me think, oh, man, that makes a lot of sense. And I remember one of those old TV infomercials, things doctors don't want you to know about. And that was actually one of the things. And so I started looking into the whole pH balance thing. So I went to a store and got some pH strips and was so surprised how acidic my body was. Because people would always ask me, why do you get sick, a lot? You always have a cold or something, you're so healthy. I'm like, no, I'm not really healthy. I'm just, I'm in shape. I look visually healthy. But so I talked to the person at the store, and he was like, yeah, you're eating vegetables. It was like, but those veggie shakes over there, like those tubs of like green food, he was like, what we consider one serving of veggies from the green powder is actually way more alkaline than a serving of actual veggies. It's like, so if you start incorporating these shakes into your diet, it's going to raise your pH. So, because I was having a little bit of vegetables a day, I'll admit I'm pretty bad about that. But I started, I just added in every morning, like Ben Pakulski does. He starts his morning off with like 2 servings of veggies. So I know he used to at the time. So every morning I'd wake up, I'd start my day off with 2 scoops of this veggie powder. And then I'd check my pH and wham, it's either pH balance or alkaline. So throughout the day I was, seeing how often I needed to do this. And I found that having a couple servings of my veggies a day, and just having a couple of those veggie, shakes a day, my pH was always pH balanced and above, and was never getting sick. So again, it's just one of those, you never hear anybody talk about that stuff. So
yeah, I actually haven't heard of that either, so I'll have to check out the video.
Oh yeah, definitely look.
And maybe I can link to it.
It's kind of like now granted, if you already have cancer, it's too late. But like cancer and a lot of diseases, they can't survive in an alkaline body. So when your body's acidic, you're opening yourself up for colds and sicknesses and whatnot. So, but yeah, I picked that up from Ben Pakulski as well. And yeah, you definitely, as into it as you are, you definitely want to look into that. You find that very interesting. But so much stuff that we do is so acidic. Actually, again, I don't know if you want me mentioning stores, but the one you used to work at, the bottled water that you guys sold, if you looked on that bottled water, it had a alkaline pH balance. A lot of people get so technical about it, they have those filters installed in their house where they're actually getting alkaline water because it's it's helping regulate their pH and making a big difference. So yeah,
that's neat.
Yeah, that was a big factor in keeping me from being sick all the time. So
Yeah, and then actually, before I forget real quick, I want to go back to the contest. What would you say if someone has never competed before, like me, how much would it cost total for someone to enter with registration and like all the little fees they get? Because, I mean, that's something that not a lot of people talk about either.
Well, for the natural shows, any show you compete in, if you're not already a member of that organization, you have to join the federation. And it just depends on, their fees. Like NPC is $100 to join. And the way it works is it's $100 per calendar year. So if you join in January, you're covered till next January. But if you join in November, you only get a month or two. It runs out at the end of that year. So NPC is pretty expensive. It's $100. Each of the 2 NPC shows I did, it was kind of bad because I knew those were the only NPC shows I was doing that year, and I'd have to pay $100 plus, the show fee and hotel. It can get really expensive, but like the natural shows that I typically do, once a year, I think I spend $35, $40, give or take, to join. The entry fee for a show is around the same, $35, $45. Where it really gets you, though, is I go out of town to compete. I always go out of town. There's never any shows in my town. So you're always going to want to stay in a hotel the night before. I mean, unless you live in the city of the show. I always stay in a hotel the night before. A lot of people just get a hotel for one night. But I always get one for 2, whether or not I'm driving home after the show or not, because after prejudge, if prejudge ends at 1 or 2 o'clock, you want somewhere to go and relax, whether it be lay down or, whatever. And I don't want to have to check out the morning of the show, wake up. When I wake up, I want to just focus on the show, get my stuff, go to the show, and know that I have somewhere to come back to if I want to lay down. So it can really start racking up because, my shows, I pay to join the federation. I pay, the entry fee into the show. We have to polygraph the night before our natural shows. At the host hotel, you have to set up a polygraph appointment. Between those 3 things, I want to say I roughly paid $100 for those 3, then plus the hotel. Well, the hotel, you're looking at about $100 a night. So right there's $300 down. You're tanning. I always advise people, if you think it's going to take 1 bottle, buy 2. Tanning, $20, $25 a bottle. Plus, chances are you were tanning in a tanning bed before that. But just for the actual show, I say you're going to spend, or for me, I'm going to spend $350 to $400 per show. Plus, for me, it's hard because I'm self-employed, so I have to take, I always take Thursday, Friday, Saturday off from the show. So I'm missing days of work. For me, it normally costs me anywhere from $800 to $1,000 per show.
When you factor in all the time lost and all that.
Oh, yeah. But at the same time, I will tell people this. It's funny because I never post anything on Facebook, but I did this last week. People always talk about how expensive it is to eat clean. It is so cheap to eat clean, like for me at least. I went to one of the wholesale places and I bought 32 pounds of chicken and 20 pounds of ground turkey for $115. That meat will last me 2 weeks. $115. That's taking your girlfriend out to eat 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, and actually, eggs are super cheap.
Carbs are cheap. Oatmeal's cheap, rice is cheap. I can eat for 2 weeks on $150 easy. Most people can't do that. So, I mean, granted, I think what gives clean eating a bad rap in terms of price, any of those little healthy magazines you get that have recipes, they have 40 ingredients, of things that you'd have to buy to make that meal. So it makes people assume, I got to spend a lot of money to eat clean. So I just don't buy into that. So I save a lot of money when I'm on a contest diet. So even though you spend that money at the end on the show, if you look at the money you saved for however long, I diet 16 weeks. I'm a firm believer in the 16-week diet. Now that I've cut for 16 weeks, I just don't think, unless you're super lean, I don't think 12 or 10 is going to do it. But over the course of that contest diet that I was on, just watching my online banking account grow was awesome, because I could never go out to eat, So it was.
Yeah, and actually, whenever I was home, my mom would always joke with me that whenever I was cutting, the food bill would be higher than when I was doing my classic bulking.
Yeah.
just because, bulking, you can eat more of like the cheaper foods, whatever type of food, but cutting, you have to be a little bit more picky on what you eat, and normally it's more expensive.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I don't know why what you just said made me think of this, but one funny thing that I tell people all the time, bodybuilders that are asking me questions about their cut, they're like, there's always the common question of how far out should you cut out shakes before a shake, or can I drink shakes all the way up until the shake? I've always laughed at that question because I'm so hungry during a contest diet. The thought of drinking protein is never. I didn't have a shake my entire contest diet. I eat whole food at every meal. If I leave the gym, it's just that, post workout shake. If I leave the gym and I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat 8 ounces of chicken. I'm not gonna drink 2 scoops of protein. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. And because a friend of mine was complaining during his diet about how hungry he was, and he was like drinking Carbolin and drinking shakes and stuff. I'm like, you are wasting half of your macros a day on liquid,
Yeah, and actually I read something last week about how your body doesn't register all the calories coming from liquid forms as easily as whole foods.
Yeah.
So if you are drinking, let's say 500 calories from a protein shake, or you eat 500 calories from chicken, your body is going to get hungrier quicker from that liquid form. So it's great for if you're trying to get in a lot of calories.
Yeah.
But if you're on a diet, not eating a lot to begin with, then definitely the whole foods will help your satiety and fullness.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, it's not so bad during the, their off season because, like, for example, I have, like, if it's leg day or back day, I'm going to have 500-600 grams of carbs. I'm going to eat I normally eat about 100 grams worth of carbs from oatmeal for breakfast. Well, when I'm eating that many carbs, I'll drink a protein shake. As a matter of fact, Frank McGrath from Universal Animal, he always puts his protein powder in his oatmeal. So he makes his oatmeal a little watery, adds it at the end, he'll put some peanut butter in it. So like days like that, I actually instead of drinking a shake or having chicken or steak or whatever, I normally don't do eggs. I like eggs, but 15 egg whites, that's only 45 grams of protein, and eating 15 egg whites is miserable. So I typically either have chicken or ground turkey or steak or something like that for breakfast. But if it's leg or back day, if it's just one of those deals where I'm eating a ton of carbs, then I'll have some protein powder, because eating 100 grams from oatmeal, I'm not going to be hungry enough to eat meat.
Now, do you believe in eating the majority of your calories right after training, like post-workout, within the 3-4 hours post-workout, try to get in the majority of your calories for that day?
I've always, the way we did my macros, and it just seemed to work for me, is we just dummied it down, and he gave me my three numbers, my macro numbers. I divided the protein by 6. That's how many I got per meal. I did the same with the fats, and then I didn't get carbs in meal 6. So I divided the carbs by 5. And I kept it pretty consistent. I didn't, they got to, like, there were some days where I'm like, I was so hungry at breakfast, I would eat a little more carbs and then kind of taper them, front load them and whatnot. But I'm hungry every meal. So I never like having a little bit of carbs at one meal, but then a lot at the next. So I eat pretty consistent. Now it's the off season though. Like today, for example, it was, my push day. So, I was just doing, chest, tries, and shoulders. So today I only ended up having like 350 grams of carbs, but I had like 100 post-workout carbs. So, and there were actually some days, I'm sure, people talk about refeed days. I didn't have traditional refeed days where they'll have like a day where you just get tons of carbs. Jason gave me refeed meals. There were actually times, and this was torturous, there were times to where, like 3 or 4 times during my diet, I had to eat 400 grams of carbs just in my post-workout meal. No protein, but 400 grams of carbs. And it had to be 200 clean carbs, 200, like dirty, sugary, but it still had to be low fat. So, so I'd eat Pop-Tarts for like 200 carbs and then eat rice for 200 carbs. But that is so much food. Like, you would be sick to your stomach doing that. So, But like I mentioned Pop-Tarts. everybody's like on this if it fits your macros kick, and like so many people like are so hooked on eating anything they want as long as it fits their macros. People are like posting pictures all over the internet of, here's what I ate today. It fit into my macros, so I can have it. Yeah, that's true, but I think I'm still personally a firm believer in eating clean calories. I just don't think, maybe you will. Some people swear you can get all your macros from crappy food and still look the same, but like we'd had a conversation earlier where I told you 80 grams of carbs from rice is going to fill you up a lot more than, 2 Pop-Tarts. Yeah, the macros were the same, but I'm going to feel a lot better longer on that rice or sweet potato or something like that than I am. If I eat 2 Pop-Tarts right now, I'll probably be more hungry than I was before I had them because they taste so good. I'm going to want more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everybody has their theories on that. They're actually changing the name. I noticed some of the 3DMJ guys are actually calling it flexible dieting now instead of if it fits your macros. And they're mentioning try to get at least 80%, or this one particular video, the guy was saying try to get at least 80% of your macro totals that day from good, clean food. If you want to if you've got some left over and you want to have, something. And even my coach let me do that. He said once in a blue moon, if post-workout you want some Pop-Tarts, something sugary to spike your insulin, feel free. But for the most part, though, I ate pretty clean my whole diet.
Yeah, see, my personal theory on it is that, yes, if you keep calories and your macros, the same, whether it's clean or, quote, dirty, I think you'll essentially be the same when it comes to weight, but it's all those micronutrients that you're missing out on. And when you're coming down to like, talking about contest prep and, shows where you're fighting for like that 1% better compared to your competitor, if you're eating Pop-Tarts and, sodas and all that stuff to get your macros, well, with some of those micronutrients, have cost you that 1%.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the way I think of it, to where, if you're fighting for tiny little changes, then it's the tiny little things that you do that are going to make that difference.
Yeah, and I've heard coaches swear that if it fits your macros, that's all that matters. And then if you ask the average IFBB pro, he'll laugh at you and tell you it's the dumbest thing he's ever heard. So, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an opinion.
This year worked just having the little random splurges. So it's like I joked with my coach. One of the first things I said when I hired him, I said, look, I don't ask for much. I just want striated glutes. Because that was a joke. Like I knew it wasn't going to be possible. A friend of mine, we joked if we ever achieved striated glutes, we would take a picture of our butt, and that would be our Facebook profile. And, obviously joking. So this year, I had striated glutes at 4 weeks out from the show. And they were really in at the show. And so I didn't really hold true. I posted a picture on Facebook from behind in a pose. I was like, so I sort of lived up to my end of the bargain. But, yeah, I just really think it was possible. And now it's like at shows you have to have – like that's just you better at least have striated glutes.
Yeah.
So people are really pushing the boundaries now with how tight and shredded you can get. But I got down to 4.1 body fat at this show. And the doctor told me once you get below 4, in his opinion, you're really pushing you might be going to the hospital,
Yeah, that's when you start messing up the physiological stuff.
No, you're not, Everybody in the gym's 10%, if you didn't know that. Everybody you talk to in the gym is 10%.
Yeah.
Even when I was 11.4 and I was twice as tight as the dude beside me, he was 10% and I was 11%,
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Right now, I think I'm sitting at like 14.5. Yeah. So I'm cutting right now, trying to slim up.
And it's hard to tell with people because there's a guy, like I play guitar at church. One of the guys in my band, he wears skinny jeans and he runs marathons and he's a skinny dude. He had his body fat check recently, it was 21%. But people would have thought he was in the single digits because he's so small. I'm like, no, you can't read it off that. It's muscle and fat, it's all that. Mm-hmm. So you can't, some guys look like they have growth gut, year round and they're walking around at 8%. And you're like, how? You have a belly, but they just have all that muscle, So, it's pretty wild. But,
All right. Well, I think we're getting to the end of the show here, but because you've, been working out for a while, you've learned a lot of things. if you could think of one thing maybe to go back and tell your, 18-year-old self, what do you think that would be?
I would have probably started eating cleaner, or just getting in the habit of trying to eat cleaner. I've always been pretty consistent. My workouts surprisingly haven't changed that much, technique-wise, yeah. But I would probably go back and start preaching diet. I keep a picture at work. I'll actually send it over to you. It's a great reference picture, because in this picture, you would think I was a fat guy. I mean, I wasn't fat. I just looked like one of those bloated football player looking guys. And I worked out 5 days a week. I just ate whatever I wanted. So I always show people this picture, and I'm like, the only difference between this picture and me now is diet. The workouts haven't really changed much, and people can't believe it. So it's just, my girlfriend, I used to motivate her. Now she motivates me. When we started dating, she lost 30 pounds in a few months, and now everybody thinks she's a figure competitor. I mean, she's at the gym 5 days a week, and people ask her nonstop, how'd you do it? What diet pill did you take? But it's just, she'll tell them it's consistency and hard work. I mean,
counting your calories.
Overnight. Nobody became a lawyer overnight. It's just, how bad do you want it? So
that 1% better every day.
Yeah. So,
like what Ben says.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess, do you have anything else you want to add real quick? Like anything that you...
I can think of. I've rambled quite a bit, but...
No, I think it was all good information, though. I think it'll help everybody out. I'm actually looking at maybe trying to enter a physique contest here in maybe this upcoming April.
Yeah.
And this being July, so, have plenty of time.
You're always going to look a lot better your second show. Well, in most cases. The first show is a learning experience, but I'd tell people, try to find a coach, or try to find some people that have done shows. Posing is huge. I mean, I could go on and on about that. That's for another topic. But posing, it's like, I tell people, it's like having a show car, but right before you enter it in the contest, you go put mud all over it. The car is still wonderful, but if you can't present it in a polished form, you have to practice like posing. And so many people enter shows and have never had a posing coach. Same way with physique. I mean, it's not as technical with the posing, but I would even tell you that. Find someone that's done it. Have them show you. There's so many little subtle things, People blow it on posing,
Well, maybe I'll hire you as my coach for posing.
I mean, I tell people all the time, find somebody that knows what they're doing, and, or at least can point you in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
So, but,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, well, great. I think that's great information, and thanks for coming on the show.
All right, man. Thanks.
And good luck with your next contest.
All right, I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
All right, cool. See ya.
All right, thanks for everyone listening to John interview competitive bodybuilder Ronnie Walker. Thanks again to our sponsor, Athleticus Nutrition. Visit them again at www.aenutrition.com. Be sure to visit us at www.ergogenicpodcast.com. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and leave an all-important review on our iTunes channel. If you have a question or a suggestion for a future episode, be sure to hit us up on the comment section of our episodes, or on Facebook, Twitter, or through our email. Lastly, thanks to Mike Knowledge for our outro song, and we will see you guys next week.
Gotta get these games. Gotta get these games. Boy, I gotta get these games. Gotta get these games. Boy, I gotta get these games. Gotta get these games. Insane for these games, nigga. No pain, no games. Boy, I gotta get these games. Gotta get these games. Boy, I gotta get these games. Gotta get these games. Boy, I gotta get these games. Gotta get these games. Insane for these games, nigga. No pain, no games. You don't fucked up now, nigga. Diesel in the building when the waves hit the flow. Yeah, feel like I'm chillin'. No days off. What? I ain't never chillin'. Better come correct, man. I'll hit your feelings. No games, no games. Sippin' on that way. No play, no way. Yo, I'm knocking out these weights. I'm trippin'. I just took 3 scoops. I'm lifting. You know what it do. Better watch your step. Boy, I throw these weights. Don't ask me what's my set, cause you gon' wait. Whoa, what's that? Watch that form on whack. I can tell you new bitch, cause you curl in the squat. Boy, I gotta get these games. Gotta get these games. Boy, I gotta get these games. Gotta get these games. Boy, I gotta get these games. Gotta get these games. Insane for these games. gains, nigga. No pain, no gains, boy, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains, boy, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains, boy, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Insane for these gains, nigga. No pain, no gains. Turn there some weight, go and throw a plate. I make this look like cake, a bull rushing out the gate. Let him hate as I navigate to captivate, elaborate. I just pump the stakes, never pump my brakes. Best believe I'ma get these gains. When everybody gone, I'm the only one remain. Maybe I'm insane, addicted to the pain. Snow, sleet, or rain, skull crushes to the brain. Just warming up, I ain't even break a sweat. I'm killing every rep, destroying every set. You know that's a bet. A fiend for protein, I'm out for more cream. So hot, I'm smoking. So oh please, I'm out, yo. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Insane for these gains, nigga. No pain, no gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Insane for these gains, nigga. No pain, no gains. Looking like a swole, 100 days straight, and I got 100 more. Even if you try, you can never break my road. First in my kind, I had to break the mold. Feeling bold off these back roads. Don't act like you don't know I'm a pro. This bench be my throne and in my zone, getting toned. I get it on my own to be told. But the caddy it goes, there he go. Music on blast, kicking ass on my hustle, building muscle. My job is never done. Get your weight up, cause I do this shit for fun. Niggas better run, son. Mike Diesel on the hunt. I'm dedicated, waiting on the day I can finally say I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Insane for these gains, nigga. No pain, no gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Bro, I gotta get these gains. Gotta get these gains. Insane for these gains, nigga. No pain, no gains. Look house boss, baby. Yo, y'all lifting today? Rest day? What that mean? It's chest day, nigga. You trying to do legs tomorrow? You don't do legs. What? Forget these games, bitch.